Continuing to track fire and heat alerts. I'm ABC10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods. October off to a record-setting start. Here's a look at one of the fires that we were tracking through our Wednesday. The peak fire is over in Tuolumne County in the Stanislaus National Forest, only at about 20 to 25 acres early in the afternoon and evening. But we're continuing to monitor this, especially with all the heat that has been going on over the past couple of days, continuing to dry out that fuel. Highs for our Wednesday, record territory for many locations, including Stockton and Modesto. Along the coast, highs were in the 100s. Ukiah 107, Santa Rosa 104. San Francisco, 92. So 90s again for the Bay Area. 105 for Fairfield and Stockton, 104 for Modesto. Sacramento Executive at 102, as well as Marysville. 90s to near 100 in the foothills, and then 80s for Truckee and South Lake Tahoe. Running down just a couple of the records for our highs today for our Wednesday. Downtown Sacramento tying the record, shy of that record for Sacramento Executive. But again, Stockton and Modesto record-setting temperatures, 105 and 104 respectively, and it looks like we'll have very likely more record highs for tomorrow. Here's a look at the first 2 days of October. Record setter for today, at least tying it for downtown Sacramento. Yesterday, starting off the month at 100, so 2 days above average. And when we start off with a month like this, it's kind of a good idea to get a check on October triple digits. The most that we ever had in the month of October, 1980, where we had 5 days of triple-digit heat. Just after that, 1987, we had 4 days. Now, the hottest October day, 102 degrees, back in 2001. I will say that we've hit that a couple of times, but the most recent was back in 2001 on October 2nd. So we're going to tie that for today, October 2nd. 2024, hitting a high of 102. The latest that we've had a 100-plus degree day in October, October 10th, that was back in 1991. But downtown Sacramento has had 10 years of Octobers that have had 100-degree temperatures. So it's very possible. It's just kind of rare. And we're going to continue with it for tomorrow. Our weather impact alert continues through Thursday with near record temperatures once again. Needing to practice that heat safety. This just feels like more of a summer forecast than, say, early fall. Heat advisory will continue through the valley and parts of the coastal valley communities. This is what we've been talking about, the very likelihood of having to extend that heat advisory, and also for the excessive heat warning continuing through tomorrow evening as well for much of the Bay Area. As we move our way southward, we get into the red flag warning, which will continue through Thursday at 8 p.m. Dry and warm conditions, and we're going to be tracking just a little bit of a wind issue as well. Now, the good news with the winds here locally is it is going to bring up our humidity back to about 35 to almost 75%, and that's because of the onshore flow. It's just a little bit of it, but that's all we need to bring up that humidity. As far as our future wind gusts, our direction has shifted. Earlier this week, we were looking at those very dry north winds and offshore winds. Now we're bringing in just a hint of that onshore flow overnight through early tomorrow. The key factor here is we're in this transition zone. And unfortunately, what that's going to mean for Northeast California is some dangerous fire conditions brewing here. You can see some pretty strong wind gusts developing by Friday afternoon, and that's where we get into this fire weather watch. It will be in place through Friday, through northeastern California, all the way through northwestern Nevada and up towards the California-Oregon border. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. We've already had some fires just right outside of this region earlier this year. So again, we'll be tracking that through our Friday forecast. And that's what leads us to our weather impact alerts. High heat, fire weather. We have that peak fire burning for today and the peak heat as well. High pressure ridge starts to ease ever so slightly. We've got a developing low to the north of us that's going to alter slightly the storm track into our Thursday. It will knock down temperatures just a couple of degrees, but every degree will matter. Tomorrow's forecast highs, it looks like just shy for downtown Sacramento of a record setter, but could see a record high in downtown Sacramento Executive as well as Stockton and Modesto because we have just a little bit less access to that cooling breeze. Now, in terms of our air quality for our Thursday, looking at unhealthy for sensitive groups for Placer, El Dorado, and Stanislaus County. Again, just really feeling like a summer forecast for us instead of fall. Timeline for our rundown here. we get into Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, and we're still looking at that heat risk continuing. Thursday, heat risk continues, as well as potential record highs. Friday through the weekend, we're going to knock down that cooling, but we're still going to see heat risk in and around the valley and the coast. We're in the major category for much of the Bay Area, even extreme areas as well. Much of the foothills in that major category for heat risk Thursday, and pockets into our Friday forecast. We'll mostly see the moderate range on Saturday through the valley, but a lot of the Bay Area continues to see major heat risk into Saturday before finally starting to get into the moderate range on Sunday. But that just showcases that even though we're seeing some relief, we're still going to be well above average. Here's a look at the pattern that develops over Friday into Saturday. That low just kind of sweeps through the Pacific Northwest, brings our first chance of an atmospheric river hitting the Pacific Northwest on Friday, but quickly moves off to the east. And that's going to mean more access to that ridge of high pressure, sinking, warming air, and highs still well above average. As you can see here, our departure from normal will still be running about 10 to 15 degrees, especially through much of the mother lode south of, say, about Amador, down through the southern Sierra, and then along the coast as well. So that could pose for some dangerous fire conditions as well. Heading into early next week, that's when we get better access to that onshore flow. We'll be bringing temperatures back closer to average by the time we get through the middle of next week. But overall, the Climate Prediction Center is saying the 8 to 14-day climate outlook is calling for very likely warmer conditions, especially through the desert Southwest. A little less so. We're going to take the edge off of that throughout portions of western California, and likely wetter conditions around the desert Southwest in the Four Corners area. As far as California, it looks very likely that we'll continue with that dry outlook for us. Highs for tomorrow, near 80 for the Sierra, 90s and lower 100s through the foothills, with highs in the 70s and low 80s along the coast. We'll get into near record territory once we start to head inland, with highs approaching the 100s. It'll be right around that threshold of 100 degrees tomorrow, really depending on how much of an access to that breeze we get overnight tonight through early tomorrow. Overall, the pattern stays pretty status quo. We get a little drop in temperatures on Friday for the mountains. Then it's right back to the mid to upper 70s Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. For the foothills, highs will be in the 90s. We get a little better relief on Monday, with highs dropping into the low 90s. And then for the coast, again, 70s and 80s take us through the forecast. A little bit of warmth building here for the weekend outlook as that ridge tries to make its way back towards the west coast. A look at our 3-day forecast. We have our weather impact alert day on Thursday, with highs still hovering right around the triple digits. And then we're going to knock it down to the upper 90s to right around the mid 90s through the first weekend of October. Next week, we finally start to see more 80s in our forecast, more fall feels out there heading into the second week of October, but a warm start nonetheless to this month. Weather playlist is in-depth forecasts, and we've got explainers and weather specials, as well as our Emmy-winning weather special on ABC10 Plus. That's our streaming app. You can download it for free on Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV.